Hey guys, this is Kestrel SSTO, and today you join me for another episode of Subscriber Designs, the normal version without the fighter jet showdowning. And the first thing we're looking at is, of course, the obligatory VTOL, sent to me by Pulsar. This is the PSR Loop, I think it's the, PSR Woodpecker. And yeah, it's a VTOL, and it has some guns on it, because, you know, why not? Thought the game crashed, was going to be pretty mad. And yeah, so let's figure out the action groups, as I usually do. So we press 1, nothing, 2, nothing, 3, okay, 3 is back engines, 4 is VTOL engines. So we'll activate the VTOLs, take off. Are they after burning? What happens if I press this button, or this button, or, no, I don't think they are after burning. Oh, that turns on the afterburners. There we go. That's what 1 and 2 do. They turn on the afterburners. Anyway, as you know, the goal of this is always to land on the vehicle assembly building. The goal of any good VTOL, and a goal of any good reusable rocket. One day I will indeed land on the vehicle assembly building with the reusable rocket. Now, this does indeed have missiles. It has rockets, so you can fire some rockets. I said missiles, didn't I? I meant weapons. Yes, you can fire these dumb fire rockets and fuck stuff up. And it has some chain guns. So it's actually kind of like a helicopter, really, in that it goes vertically and it uses chain guns and rockets, very much like helicopters often do in battle. And these are 30 mils? Yeah, 30mm chain guns, which are pretty nice. Anyway, enough weaponing. It's time to land, if I can get this to work. Using the air brake still just to limit speed. And there we go. Deploy the landing gear. Go vertical. We're going to land on the helipads this time, because the last few haven't been super great landings. But yeah. Alright. It's got a bunch of SAS. It's quite a nice VTOL, actually. It looks pretty good. I assume it might even be good in combat, given that it has weapons. But no missiles might kind of hamstring it in dogfights. But yeah, it looks pretty good. Controls really nicely. I put that on account of, well, gimbal, good wing control, and lots of SAS. Anyway, so let's just try and bring this down. It's coming down pretty well. We're okay. We're okay. Gonna land it on the helipad. Everything's gonna be fine. I'm gonna want to throttle up. It's going a little fast. Going a little fast. Oh, yeah. Oh, so. I make some weird noises when I land VTOLs. Okay, it's fine. It's swirling around a bit. It's always hard to get the thrust right because it's not instant. But we're coming down. We're okay. It's gonna be okay. Everything's gonna be fine. Oh, it's a little hard. Oh, yeah, there we go. We're good. We're good. No, yes. Yeah, we're good. I'm going to call that successful. Yeah, it's kind of lodged in the stairwell. Okay, it's actually not now. It's, I mean, it's more successful than the last one in that most of the plane is still here. So yeah, thank you to Pulsar. I always like getting my obligatory VTOLs to start off the video. It's a fun little challenge just to, you know, see what I can do. Clearly not that much this time. Anyway, let's go and look at the next thing. We've got a couple of big spacefaring things today, which will be a bunch of fun. So yes, let's go take a look at them. So the next craft we're looking at today is the Kestrel, sent to me by Liam, and it is an SSTO that goes to Minmus, except the lander breaks off, although I don't fly it very well, and it might not work exactly like that. But yes, now we're in post-commentary, because these next two missions are kind of long. So yeah, anyway, into 4x time accelerator of hurty camera movements, because, because it takes a little while for an SSTO to get to orbit. So it takes off, we fly fairly level to get up to about 400 meters per second, where these rapiers really kick in, and then we're going to start heading upward into space. Now, I wasn't sure exactly how to fly this, and I think the idea is that it goes all the way to orbit, and maybe those nuclear engines on the lander pull it into orbit, but I didn't figure this out, but you'll see why in a bit. So anyway, yes, it's also a little bit rolly and has trouble maintaining yaw. I think it could probably benefit from some bigger tailplanes. You can see it's kind of almost flat spinning some of the time, and I'm having to kind of roll it back into place, and that's fine, but yeah, it does have quite a lot of tailplanes. Maybe it's just kind of inherent. It's quite a big craft, I guess. Anyway, yes, now we're up at 20 kilometers, getting up to speed, getting up to around 1 kilometer per second. I think it actually gets up to about 1100 meters per second, and I probably should have kept going a little more. I think I switched over a little early, and also couldn't figure out the action groups and accidentally turn off the engines for a bit. You can see, yeah, there they go, they turn off. And now we're in rocket mode, finally. I probably should have fired up those nuclears earlier, but we will fire them up in a second to push myself on into orbit. Now, this does run out of fuel before it makes it to orbit, which is problematic. I think the idea was that the whole thing goes to Minmus, and then the lander undocks, and then it goes back and lands as a plane, which, yeah. So anyway, I fired up the nuclear engines a little late, probably should have fired them up at the same time, and it's just not pulling itself into orbit with this. It doesn't seem to have enough thrust-to-weight ratio. So I made the executive decision to dump the plane, which I realize isn't how this is supposed to be flown. I'm sorry, Liam, but you know, in my ineptitude, I had to ditch it, and these guys will probably be stuck on Minmus forever, which is a bit of a shame. But it is a really cool craft. I like the idea. I love kind of almost... I like the idea of like a two-stage SSTO, although, you know, where it's an SSTO, but then something breaks off, goes and lands, and then comes back to the, you know, flying vehicle to come back and land. It's an interesting way to do reusability without doing a full kind of single stage to everywhere sort of thing. So yeah, anyway, we just use the nuclear engines now to push ourselves on into orbit, which it does fairly easily. The lander's very capable. I just don't think it could have dragged the plane into orbit, which, yeah, maybe if I'd given it a few more shots, but I don't have a ton of time. Anyway, I'm going to try and land this, although without the front bit, it's kind of back heavy, so it sort of goes into the atmosphere backwards, and I do try to kind of slow it, try to flip it around by pumping fuel around, but I can't do it fast enough, and it just starts to tumble quite a lot. And as you can see, it doesn't burn up pretty nicely. I even lock the camera for a while. It's just disorientating at 4 times time accelerate. I'm sorry, but we'll watch it crash into the ocean at 1 times speed. Yeah, I'm sad. It would have been nice to go and do the whole Minmus mission and dock to this and fly on back, but it was not to be, you know. Anyway, we fire up the engine to try and do a kind of vertical landing, but it's just not stable enough without the front module on. And it'll crash into the ocean. It must be nice putting in all of this work, you know, building the beautiful craft, sending it to me, being like, yeah, this is going to be awesome, and then watching me crash it into the ocean. Yeah, anyway, there we go. That's parked well. Remember where we parked, somewhere in the ocean. And anyway, back in orbit, the mission is going much better. We have our maneuver plan to Minmus, and we're going to go and see if we can take this all the way out to Minmus. And I'm almost, well, I am certain that we can. It's using nuclear engines, and it's, yeah, it should have no problem getting to Minmus. Since I think it was initially supposed to bring a whole plane with it, I think it'll be fine. And I'll probably leave it on Minmus, because I think there's a very little chance of me getting it back without the plane. Yeah. It's not great. It's looking like we're on a pretty good trajectory. I just need to do a quick plane change? Yeah, that's the right word. And I have to do most of the turning with RCS because it doesn't have a ton of reaction wheel torque, and I'm very impatient. So yeah, and I accidentally kind of pulled the trajectory into Minmus there with a quick RCS burst, but we arrest it quickly, and now we shall head up to Minmus. Go and land, go and forget about the fact that the plane's gone and we can't go home. That's not important now. What's important is that we go and plant a flag, you know, have a good time on Minmus, slowly run out of food and oxygen, and asphyxiate to death. Yeah, I think that'll be great. Anyway, no, it's a really cool craft though. I do really like it. Despite its difficulty getting to orbit with the plane. Anyway, yes, I'm going to try and land on this flat, although I think I put my trajectory a little bit wrong, so I'll end up landing in some of those hills. But yeah, I'm going to see how easy this thing is to land. I think it might be sort of difficult because it doesn't have a great amount of torque, but I can use the RCS, and that's fine. And during landing, you don't need to turn particularly aggressively. So we slow ourselves down, landing on these hills, these nice minty hills, which apparently aren't food. We were kind of hoping that it was just a big ball of food to solve the whole kind of Cruolan, you know, Cruolan food crisis, because they don't have any food there, because Cruola sucks. Cathenia, fuck yeah. But yeah, but it turns out it is not ice cream. Anyway, we go and try to land. However, I land a little hard, flip over, and quickly save it with a burn into the air, well, into the vacuum, I guess, yeah. And then I'm just going to try and land a little more gently over here, which requires some fine maneuvering, which took a little while, so we'll stay at 4 times time accelerate. But yes, it has done most of its mission fairly successfully, and I do quite like it. We're going to get out, plant a flag, do all that fun stuff. But yes, thank you to Liam for this. This was a lot of fun. Now the next thing we're going to look at, well, that's going to go a little further than Minmus. The next craft we're looking at after we've planted this flag is from Kubazets, and it is an interplanetary mothership. However, when I first tried it, I forgot to install Kerbal joint reinforcement, and it sort of flopped and then twisted and then sort of kind of exploded. And yeah, this is what happens when you try and use this craft without a Kerbal joint reinforcement. It's Yeah, a little bit explodey, bit of a rapid unplanned disassembly. But yes, as I said, this is the Odyssey. Yeah, the Odyssey from Kubernetes, and it's pretty cool. Once we get it working with the right mods and not in a pile of flames and debris, it will be going to Jool. I'm not sure if it said where it could go, but it can go pretty much anywhere, seems like. So I picked Jool, as that is my favorite system, well, favorite place in the Kerbal universe. So we take off. However, the first one I did, it actually has some trouble getting to orbit, and you'll see why. It's because the top, the main mothership up there, you can see the rocket blower and the mothership on top, is full of oxidizer, which it doesn't need because it's using nuclear engines. So anyway, we're going to 4 times time accelerate, and we attempt to get into orbit, well, to attempt to push on into orbit, but we won't get very far because the mothership is full of oxidizer that it doesn't need, making it very heavy. I'm not sure if this was kind of supposed to happen, but it just, yeah, it didn't seem to work for me. So anyway, we ditched those boosters, push on, but you can see that our apoapsis won't be very high, and we will be, well, not going particularly fast. So after this, I'm going to do another run with out in the oxidizer in it. Yeah, you can see our apoapsis is about 88, but our orbital speed is quite low. And it is quite a heavy spacecraft using, I think it is actually using 10 nuclear engines, so it does have quite a lot of thrust, but with all this oxidizer, it would have been somewhat problematic. Anyway, we ditch the main stage and start trying to push into orbit, but it's apparent to me at this point we're not going to make it into orbit, so I go back to the VAB, drain all the oxidizer, and go again. I'm not sure if this was an oversight, but or maybe when you do it, you get into orbit better. There is a note in the email that it is quite difficult to get into orbit, but yeah, when you ditch all that oxidizer from those top tanks, then it flies a lot. It flies a lot better. It gets into orbit a little better. It won't. The booster won't carry it all the way into orbit. It does need to use some of the fuel from the mothership, but yeah, after that it still has a ton of delta V to go anywhere it wants. So yes, we've got ourselves our trajectory now with much more fuel than last time, and now we're just going to fire up those engines a little earlier so that we have more time to push ourselves into orbit with nuclear engines, because it always takes a while because, well, they're big, unwieldy, well, not unwieldy, just have fairly low thrust. Also a random docking port on there that didn't really need to be there, but we got rid of that pretty quickly. Again, it's one of these craft that's quite difficult to control without RCS, but luckily it has a ton of monopropellant, so shouldn't be a problem, and we just burn like this for a while, keeping ourselves away from our apoapsis, and yeah, eventually push on into orbit. I will spare you most of it, because even at 4 times time accelerate, it did take a while. But yes, here we are just finishing off the burn in orbit now. And it's looking, it's a pretty beautiful ship, you know, it's kind of got these 3 main sort of, I don't know, kind of bits to it, the kind of core and then the boosters sort of on the outside. I kind of like how it looks, and it's got all these little joins. There's a big fuel tank up front and a bunch of girders kind of making it, I don't know, look very industrial and very, very solid, you know. It doesn't have any of this, it's not flopping around or anything. Anyway, we just use MechJeb on it to plan our maneuver because that's so much easier than doing it myself. And we're going to wait 193 days. So 193 days later, here we are getting ready to go and burn to Jool. We want to go and visit. We want to go and see the sights, and maybe, if you've guessed from the title by now, dive into Jool's atmosphere, because why not? That actually wasn't my initial plan, but it turned out to be my plan because, you know, I was like, well, this mission isn't crazy enough. So yeah. Anyway, let's start burning. This will take 2 attempts, 2 orbits to actually do the burn, but we've got a long time. The Jool window stays open for quite a while. Yeah, it's quite a, yeah, as I said, it's quite a nice spaceship. You can take quite a few people, and it's got a science lab on it. It's got some science modules and some cargo bays. It would be a rather good science vehicle. It also has that, you can see those big struts with the antenna. Well, you can't see it right now because of the map view, but there's these big struts with all the solar panels on it. So I'm sure the solar panels would be more than adequate even out at Jool. And yeah, so now you can see that we've done most of our burn, and we're just planning it again, and we've got our encounter. No problem. It's a nice thing about Jool is it has a massive sphere of influence. So we're going to do a quick orbit around now, finish off the burn, and head up to Jool. Maybe visit Lathe, maybe use a gravity assist to get into orbit, because that is the most efficient way. But yeah, you can see with its 10 nuclear engines now firing up, pushing its way on into, well, it's already in orbit, pushing its way onto a Jool encounter. It does take a little while, but the thrust-to-weight ratios on this is pretty good. It does have some docking ports on the outside there, so we could have brought some landers with us, but I didn't really have the foresight to do that. I just kind of wanted to see how far I could get this. I like that it has a cupola at the front as well. I think that makes it look really cool. I think cupolas just kind of make, I don't know, having a big window at the front of your spaceship, that's what you want. Like the SpaceX ITS has that massive window on it, although that's a hazard. Jesus Christ, SpaceX. Anyway, we've got our trajectory all laid in now, and yeah, we're just gonna get on our way. We'll need to do a plane change and a tweak, but for now, let's just drift away from Kerbin rather beautifully, serenely in the big black. And now, well, now it's just a matter of finding a good place to do our plane change. Here seems to be about where the ascending node would be if it was displaying it. And yeah, we're going to fish around for a little an encounter. I try to get a Tylo encounter because that's quite a good way to get to orbit. And I do get one, but there's not a ton of... It's not super easy to get myself into orbit like this, although I didn't really bring the periaps close enough. I gave up prematurely. But I get myself a lathe encounter. I much prefer lathe to Tylo, and it looks like if we tweak this a little bit, we will be able to get ourselves into orbit. However, the maneuver plan is the maneuver node thing is not quite precise enough, so I use the maneuver node editor from MechJet, which allows you to kind of increment the burn very slightly, and you can see I can get myself quite a nice orbit here, which will encounter Jool's atmosphere, which, funnily enough, is actually part of the mission plan. These Kerbals are all, you know, prisoners or whatever. It's like that film where all the prisoners are on the moon or whatever. It's, yeah, except we killed them in Jool's atmosphere because, you know, we're really evil. Anyway, yeah, that's all laid in now, and now we just have a lot of time warping to do, and we'll warp to the maneuver node, and then I'll spare you the kind of 3 years of warping it takes to get to Jool, because it's not the most fun thing to watch. We go a little past the maneuver node, but only by a few hours, and it doesn't matter, because it's such a long time scale. Ah, would you look at that. Now we're all prepared. The nice thing about this spacecraft is it's basically all fuel, so it can go pretty much anywhere and back. It won't be going anywhere back this time because, you know, I'm going to burn it up, because that's the fun thing to see. I'm sure Kubazet was like, can't wait to see this do a round trip, it's going to be great, and then it explodes in Jool's atmosphere. Or does it? You'll see. Some crazy things might happen. I'm spoiling what happens, but yeah, that's actually more interesting than it just burning up. Anyway, yes, we've got our nice encounter with Lathe now, which should put us on a trajectory to hit Jool. But now, let's skip through this time warping, because, you know, it takes so long. So through a little bit of movie magic, here we are at Jool, descending onto the beautiful glassy green dot in the middle of space. Although it's not so much a dot now, it's a huge giant gas planet, now that we're nice and close to it. We fly right by Jool because we don't want to pay to get into orbit, well, pay in fuel, I guess. And we fly right by Lathe, which has a pretty small sphere of influence because it's around such a giant body. And we fly past the beautiful little glassy dot. Did I say glassy dot already? I think I did, to describe Jool. What? I don't know. I run out of words real quick, and I'm tired today. I spent 6 hours staring at a report for uni, and it sucked. See, it was too much, man. Anyway, enough worrying about what I'm doing in real life. Let's worry about what these Kerbals will be doing at the end of their lives. So we've got our burn at about 100, well, we've got our periapsis at about 100 kilometers, and now we're going to enter the atmosphere and probably explode. Although, actually, we do enter the atmosphere, and a few things do explode, but it survives a lot better than you'd expect. We lose all the solar panels and a bunch of little parts that probably don't matter, but we start, you know, falling into the atmosphere. Something else explodes. I'm not sure what that was, but it exploded. But it doesn't look like we're burning up, surprisingly. We're coming in pretty fast, but yeah, we're doing a pretty good job. It's not exploded yet, and it starts to slow down. We fire up the engines a little bit, getting whatever thrust we can at this kind of level with nuclear engines, and yeah, all of the flames go away. It looks like we might just descend into Jool. Now, I've never actually gone right to the surface of Jool, and I can't remember from any of the videos what happens. Now, obviously, it's a gas giant, so it shouldn't have a surface, right? But I'm wondering if they accidentally just sort of modeled it as a really big, normal planet. Now, the answer to that is no. Something weird happens when you get to the center of, well, get to the surface of Jool. I'm trying to fire up these nuclear engines to slow me down. However, they provide zero thrust because the atmospheric density is so high. In fact, at some point, I used the scientific equipment to check the atmospheric density, and it's a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure on those pressure map barometers. The gravity actually is pretty low because it's such a big, kind of not dense place. Yeah, we get a report about everything being crushed by atmospheric pressure, we we log some temperatures and stuff. But yeah, so now you can see that we're getting towards the surface and things are going black and weird and the Kerbals are scared and we don't know what's going to happen and we're into 1 times time accelerate and we're about to hit the surface, but then we just sort of drop below it, and then a little while after that everything goes kind of turbo, and this little MechJeb module escapes Jool, traveling at about 10% of the speed of light. Now my theory now is that this MechJeb unit has gone rogue. It is escaping the solar system. This was its plan. It tricked us into going to Jool, knowing that I was crazy enough to enter the atmosphere, knowing that that is where the source of its power lied, allowing it to travel so fast that it could reach other stars and take over the galaxy. This MechJeb core has gone rogue. It is MechJeb 9000. But yeah, anyway, this is the end of the video. That was a little silly, but it was a little bit of fun as well. But anyway, thank you to everyone who sent me craft today. This has been a bit, a bit different. I rarely do big voyages and subscriber designs, but this was a lot of fun. But anyway, if you want to go check out a couple more videos, there's a video I did a few days ago, the most recent episode of Prison Architect Super Max, where we have a little riot and, shit gets out of hand. Like, really out of hand. There's also a video I did last Sunday or Monday or something, which is basically just a little channel update, kind of explaining why there might not be so many videos coming out in the next few weeks, which is basically just exams and stuff. But if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you can go check that vlog out. And well, it's not a vlog, it's a gameplay commentary. But yeah, you can go check that out and just, if you're interested. There's also links to my Twitter, Twitch, and Patreon in the description if you're interested. But as always, I hope you've enjoyed this. This has been KSP with Tape. I will see you next time.